Alrighty folks, this lesson we're going to talk about a subject that isn't talked about anywhere near enough on YouTube guitar lesson videos, and that is muting. Now muting is super duper important. I can't stress enough how important it is, especially playing electric guitar and especially playing at any volume or with any distortion. It's something that I pick my students up on constantly because I can hear string noise going on. I'm saying, listen to that string noise, do something about it. And we're talking all players from, you know, beginners to advanced. It's a really common issue that needs sorting out. So let's start with something like this. Maybe like a Stevie Ray Vaughan-y type vibe. So when I'm playing this note, you can see I'm playing all the strings. You can only hear one note because all the rest are muted. All right, let's talk about how they're muted. So I'm on the D string, 7th fret, with my third finger. Now my third finger and kind of these two fingers as well are muting all the strings, like the G string, the B string, and the E string. They're all taken care of by these fingers. So these fingers need to be flat. They can't be like this, okay? They've got to be dropped. Your hand position has to be dropped. The A string is muted, right, by, in this case, my second finger. It could be a third finger, but it's muted there, look. So that one can't ring out. And the low E string is muted by my thumb. So what I'm basically doing is kind of, I talk about like embracing the neck, you know? You're just giving it a gentle cuddle, if you like. Too hard, we're going to be fretting. Too light, we're going to get open strings. So it's just a gentle, you're just gently touching the strings. So you're getting this. Yeah, so whenever I'm playing anything, I'm kind of doing this all the time, even in these little... You can see I'm kind of wrapped around the neck the whole time, just trying to control it. Now the job of these fingers is to mute the strings below where they're fretting, okay? And the job of this hand is to mute the strings above. So this hand, think of this as your karate chop, and your karate chop is kind of lying down here, right? So my karate chop is always muting the strings above whatever fret I'm fretting here. So if my karate chop goes too low, like down there, it's not going to be able to do the muting job anymore. Now you'll see this a lot. You'll see this a lot in guitar playing, even some advanced players. You'll see that they drop their hand down there, okay? But it's not good because these strings are going to ring out. Yeah, so you want to control those strings. So your hand shouldn't really drop below where mine is now. Because if it does, that low E string can escape, all right? So get used to that hand being not below there. You can come above that, you know, as I come up to these. That's fine, but it kind of drops down a little bit as I go down. So let's think about this pentatonic position 1, muting. Now as I'm doing that, what's my index finger? My index finger is now muting the string above. Muting the string above. Muting the string above, all the way down. It's like my index finger is trying to find its friend, right? So now it's found its friend, the A string. If it comes down and it doesn't find its friend, it's like goes, oh, where's my friend? And it just kind of shifts up a little bit. All right? So I'm always controlling those strings. So the index finger's job is to try and mute the string above it as much as it possibly can to stop that string ringing out. That's another job. Please remember to like, subscribe, super duper important, hit that bell notification. Check me out on Patreon. The solo at the start of this, I'm going to do a video on Patreon breaking that solo down on how to play it. Quite a neat little solo. Let's talk about a funky vibe. So most of the muting now is all left hand. So can you see it going off and on? There is a bit of control here, but but it's mostly this hand going off and on like this to create those muted strums. And the right hand is just doing 16th notes, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah. Also, when we're bending strings, you'll get this a lot. Can you hear it? So the D string's ringing out because I'm pushing against it with this finger here. Almost like doing a pull-off on it, really, in a way, which is bad. We don't want the D string ringing out, and I hear this all the time. So I control the D string with this finger. It touches the D string there. So if it's touching it, right, it doesn't let go, it can't, that D string can't ring out. Something to aware of in bending, the strings above, that you need to mute those off, yeah, as you bend, to stop them ringing out, because otherwise you'll catch them and flick off them and create a sound which you don't want. So that's another thing to think about with muting. What else do we need to think about? Right hand, right? Let's say we're doing legato runs. Right, I've just got a light mute here. Which becomes less as I move on to the higher strings. Some muted lower wound strings. So it's a very light mute here with this right hand. We're only like, I don't know, a millimetre off the where the strings come off the saddles there. It's only a tiny little bit, just to give it a little bit of control. That's another one with muting. And also when you're doing, like say we're doing a blues shuffle, like just simple like a... There's mute there again, but I'm also letting go of the mute sometimes. So I've got... Yeah, to give it a bit of dynamics, all right? And dynamics obviously are super important. So muting when you're strumming out chords or a chord pattern or shuffles or something like that, really important. Again, just right hand light there. One of the other things about muting is it gives you this percussive feel, like... it helps drive things. It keeps it quite staccato-ish at times. Now here, that muting, a lot of it's right hand. It's like I'm muting as I'm kind of like slamming into the strings to give it this sound. Yeah. Yeah, so you can really dig in there. And I'm giving that quite a bit of welly to get that going. And also I'm doing that coming off and on with this finger here. On, off, on, off, on, off, on, off. Yeah. So just playing around with that vibe, but try and get that real drive going to it, that kind of, you know, or in the pocket feel some people talk about. Another thing you need to be aware of is something called sympathetic resonation. Ooh, that was a big word. Sympathetic resonation, that's right. So when you play a note, if I play a G note and my G string is open and allowed to ring, my G string will ring out. Let's put some distortion on for this. Right, so lots of gain. So the example is this. If I play this G note here, my G string, although I haven't touched it, is actually ringing out. Now, you'll find this is the case when I slide up a fret, and you'll hear the two notes ringing at the same time. So if I play the G note here and slide up to G sharp, it'll sound horrible because we'll get G and G sharp at the same time. Can you hear it? Now, that's because the G string is ringing sympathetically with this G note here. That's fine when I'm playing the G note, but when I move off the G note, those two notes ring out together and it's not good. That's why I need to mute the G string. Fine. But really nasty, okay? So whenever you play a note, right, whenever you play a note that's the same frequency as an open string, you know, E, A, D, G, B, E, that open string will ring out. Now you can test this by doing, let's take the gain off again. And sometimes, by the way, try playing like there with that stupid amounts of gain. If you play with stupid amounts of gain, you can hear these strings ringing out and all this string noise really clearly and deal with it. And then when you turn the gain down, you start to do this stuff automatically. So it's definitely worth practicing with stupid amounts of gain. That's my stupid amounts of gain setting. Right, so if I play this G note here and I touch this G string, right, I can hear it and feel it ringing. Yeah, so I'll try this pick over. There, you can just hear it, can't you? Yeah, it does ring out. Now you can try that with other strings, yeah? So that's something called sympathetic resonation, which is a bit of a pain in the bum, really, but you just deal with it by muting those strings. That's another reason to mute. So there's, I don't know how many, 5 different ways of muting, reasons to mute there. Muting is massively important, but it's like anything with guitar. If you don't give it any attention, it won't get any better, right? So what you need is radar-like ears that pick up on any extraneous string noise, and it just goes, right, where's that coming from? Sometimes you kind of have to fiddle around with your fingers a little bit just to get them in just the right places, just to make sure you're muting properly, especially with, like, you know, if you've got your index finger here and you're muting the strings below it, it's got to be just at the right angle. It needs to be bent at this knuckle here, just a little bit dropped, yeah, kind of like that shape, yeah, but it's not, it's definitely not that shape, it's definitely not flat. It's got to be just right in order to mute those strings, but it's worth spending time with that, because if you want to sound really good, you need to get your muting under control.